Hello and welcome back. This is episode 96, and we are dropping in on you from above like a superhero because it is National Superhero Day. We have our underpants on the wrong side of our trousers, and we are feeling so role model-y that we could have come in a Lego box. Yes, Eric has a Wonder Woman mug. Brett is wearing his lederhosen. He's come as some German superhero. But superheroes tend to be offered to us as role models. It's only in more recent years that we've had kind of anti-heroes who lead the way in movies, but I'm not going to complain about Margot Robbie any day. It does, however, mean that we can talk about what it is to be brave, what courage means, what heroic looks like for each of us, and also where we kind of exemplarize this in our own lives. Where do we act with bravery, with courage, with honesty? Off we go.
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to me is that bravery and courage and all of that doesn't have, like, we might, especially talking about superheroes, equate that to some big giant gesture, like I'm lifting up a bus, or I'm sweeping in and rescuing you from, a life-threatening situation. All those things obviously are. I mean, look, everyday superheroes, firemen, policemen, they do these things, EMT workers on the daily. Bravery, yes. Our discussion here can include that, but I think what we're talking about, or can talk about, especially based on last episodes, is the bravery and the courage it takes in everyday situations, in keeping a relationship alive and healthy. What kind of courage and bravery does it take to do that? Stepping into hard conversations, like Gabby was saying. Why do we stop ourselves from doing that? In those relationships that find themselves not being able to talk open and honestly with their partner, what's happened? Where did the courage go? What are you afraid of? That's what comes up for me.
I was thinking to myself lately, because I always thought that it was my lack of bravery why I didn't search out certain conversations. I mean, I had a couple really, really long-term committed relationships, and I walked out one day, and I always told the story that I didn't talk to the guys. I wanted to keep the peace, and then I walked out and I didn't know why. And it only did strike me lately that that is actually not an accurate picture. Sometimes we warp our past. I realized that it wasn't the problem of having a difficult conversation, because I had no problem having difficult conversation in other scenarios. I realized for myself that I didn't seek them when I had the feeling that I won't be listened to, that I won't be taken serious, and that I will be judged. And that's why I didn't seek the conversations often. Because I might start at a conversation and was ignored or belittled or whatever happened, so I just stopped having them because of the response of the other person. And I wonder how often does that happen in relationships, that we just give up to talk to the partner because of that. And a lot comes in. I mean, Erica, you talked in another episode about sitting down and actually thinking about, what do I want to say? What's the real issue? And when will I say it? Get the timing right. So not when the partner comes into work being stressed all day, but maybe seeing it on a Sunday evening when we're relaxed, right? So this all comes in, but I just wonder, because we talked in a previous episode about, relationships just wiggling out slowly because, every day routines and rut and the whole lot. But how often does that come into our relationships as well, that we just give up speaking to the other person because we don't feel anything is coming back, or they don't take us serious, or they don't listen?
It kind of brings us back to the clown car analogy, or the vehicle not being maintained. If you see that the windscreen wipers aren't doing a good job and you can't see clearly in the relationship, you can't see what lies ahead for you, maybe shared path or something anymore, and you say the windshield's really dirty, and you get, no, it's not, I can see fine, then that's exactly the sort of analogy that fits this. I know people are quick to say, oh, it's gaslighting and things these days. I'm not going that route. What I'm saying is someone maybe feels that they're looking clearly further down the road ahead and just doesn't see the same smear on the windscreen that you do, which perhaps, if you were just to pull to the side of the road and wipe off.
And that needs the real courage. In that moment, it really takes real courage to then turn around and say, look, I have needs and they're not met. Because the minute we say that, if we don't say it the right way, the other person can take it as, well, there's nothing wrong with me as a partner. What do you mean? It can be very... So to have the courage to seek that conversation and then be good enough in our own communication to say it in a way that the other person doesn't feel attacked is really, really important. Sorry, Erica, you were saying?
That's okay. No, that's what I was going to say. Listening to you, like identifying that it wasn't that you weren't courageous, but that you felt like you weren't going to be heard or received. So my next question is, what kind of courage does it take to walk through that anyway, right? Like to know I might not be heard or received, but I still need to say this, right? And to Alex's analogy, the windshield, right? I can't see, they can see. Okay, but I still can't see. So I need to be courageous enough to pull that car over and get out in the storm where I might get hit by a car because they don't see me, to change that windshield wiper, right? Like that kind of courage. How do we dig into that courage? Like knowing I might not be heard right. I might get an answer I don't want right now, or I'm going to, he or she is going to shut down or deflect or do whatever, but I need to find the courage to do this anyway. What process needs to happen for us to engage in those kinds of stepping through to get the answer I might not even want to have, but that I probably needs to be aired out, right? To take us to the next level of what needs to be said.
What's the worst thing? Like if you took this, something like I would look at, right? So what's the worst thing that can happen in having this conversation? If it's with your partner, that could bring you to going your separate way, right? So I look at it like, well, if we're going to go our separate way, why wait another year, 2 years, 10 years? Like, let's take the risk and bring it up, because if it's going to send us our separate ways, then we're going to be going that way anyway. Because it's the relationship's that important that I need to talk about it now. Because if I don't talk about it, or in a day or two, I really like the way Erica processes looking for the right time. So that I would highlight as being key, looking for the right time to drop it. But also just keeping in mind how important it is to take that risk, because all you're doing is you're just prolonging what's gonna happen, right? And you're really looking at it like, well, let's bring it right to that point, and wow, you might find that no, I'm not even close to that, and then you start really working through certain things, right? We're really in a good spot, really, right? So it could be a whole mind playing its own game, and you just keep holding back. But then once you start holding back and not having that conversation, right, it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. Well, the car starts, it only had a flat, right? And now the tire's off, and now the car's going down the road with sparks coming from the tire. Well, how much longer again, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Is the relationship going to end? Right? And if it's going to end, then it was probably going to end anyway. So why not take the risk of having the conversation to have the best relationship that you can possibly have? Because it could just be a thought, right, that we're holding on to, and maybe it's an old relationship or something that we were learned or taught in the past, or you know.
There's, I'm. It amazes me that we can recognise that these things are difficult and that people do need some version of courage to have the conversations, and yet honesty and integrity and communication within a relationship, given an equally mature, courageous partner, will see that relationship through hell and high water. And yet so many relationships suffer. You know, mate, is it assumption about what the relationship will be? Is it expecting the other person to mind read what your needs might be? Does this just bring us all back to boundaries? Because we know that with the things I just listed, maturity, character, wisdom, etc., good communication, you can get through any issue. It's what we help our clients with. It's what, if we don't have clients, we help friends and family with. And yet, I know I was saying this before we started recording today, we can be so blinkered. You know, it's so easy to see into other people's relationships, to help them to come to the understandings that their communication maybe just isn't meshing, whatever. And then we can look at our own stuff and be like this. Like, no, I'm fine. Yep, everything's good with me.
Yeah, and this goes not only to relationships like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but relationships, friends, right? Because your friends, you may play a certain role in that person's life. And if you're growing and you're no longer holding that role, and you're holding on to the friendship, you're holding on to that old piece of you, right? And for that person to bring that conversation that could end that friendship, right? Because it's not just a relationship, it could be a friendship. And it could end that relationship, friendship. If it does, then you can look at that as your growth, because that person can no longer meet you in that honest place, right? And then the people that you can have, and that's where you have, oh, I got 100 friends. Okay, Facebook, that's great. But that's not reality, because they're just people, right? The friends are the people that can call you on your shit, right? And that can really talk to you when times are hard, and you actually listen, right? And you can look at it and say, yeah, is that really my stuff? Right? Those are the people that I want around me, not the ones that'll just sugarcoat everything. Oh, hey, it's all good. No, you're totally right. No, like there's got to be, and you'll start seeing them drop off, and you start seeing that real number coming in. And if you got the 5 people surrounding you, and you got 5, you got more than 5, you're blessed and you're doing good, right? Because now you have those pillars that will support you in being the best person that you want to be, that you're looking to be. Or because birds of the same feather flock together, right? If you want to be XYZ, guess who's going to be around you? Those same type of people. You want to be a millionaire? Start hanging out with millionaires. You start picking up thinking and those patterns, right? And then you start getting your ideas. It's just like our conversation, how we bounce off of each other, right? Now you start sitting with millionaires or somebody who's really good in relationships or whatever it may be. That conversation starts bouncing off of them, and it sparks different thoughts in your head. And it starts bringing you down that road, and it opens up that pathway of thinking within you, right? So whatever it is, it's the people that surround you that are going to support you. And if those people aren't don't have integrity and don't have that level that you want to be at, then that's something that I would look at, you know. So
Yeah, and you're talking about that relationship. The five people closest to you are kind of the sum of who you are to a certain extent, and if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room so that you can grow, kind of thing. But sometimes you hang in that room because people are coming along with you. We have all seen the growth and change in people, within ecology and stuff over the last few years. I sometimes wonder how many people left thinking, okay, I'm going to go and find a different community. But, did they find what they were looking for? It's a bit like people, and Gabby was mentioning in this earlier, how in this kind of disposable society, how quickly people are to say, yeah, no, that's not working for me, and I'm out of here. We never used to do that. Things like fridges and stuff were engineered to last, not to break, as to quote the song, as soon as the warranty expires. And we've taken all of this on. Gabby said earlier about the way we've assumed in the West that marriage takes this, you meet someone, you fall in love, you get married, you get your legal bit of paper, and then you have children, get divorced, and pay the cost of your house to a lawyer. Well, we have equally been kind of directed to believe that everything is replaceable, disposable, to be thrown away when it no longer serves us. Where is, going back to superheroes, where is the role modeling of this is how you work through difficulties in your relationship? This is how, I would love to think that my son has experienced a healthy way that relationships can end. I would like to think that not every relationship he has in the future will end with slammed doors and storming off, because he has never witnessed that. So, it's not just communicating for the sake of the person that we're with in a relationship. It could also be what it teaches co-workers, children, an entire society around you. And we come back to this so frequently that the change has to start with us, and we have to be modeling all of the things that it is we believe society would be better for ourselves. It all starts with us.
And when you said something there, it's interesting because, we have become so used to throw the old out and the new in, and everything is final, and that's it. And that's how people talk. And we forget that people change and relationships change. Alec, your relationship hasn't ended with your ex. You still have a relationship with her, but the type of relationship is just different. But you still talk, she still comes up and brings the sun, and you know what I mean? There wasn't an end, there was a change, which I think is really, really important. And I think what's the problem, why relationships break down so regularly, is this finite thinking. We always think finite, okay, that's it. I asked my sister once, she's married for so long, really good marriage, and she said, it's hard work. Our relationship has changed in nature a few times, and it was hard work. It's not easy.
I mean, people would probably be surprised to know that, I regularly go and stay in the house of my ex-partner, my son's mum. I house sit their dogs. I use it as a base when I am back down in England, when I go and do bits and pieces down there. And I suspect many people would not be able to understand. I mean, hopefully this isn't too close to home, and neither of them are listening. But George, bless him, at one point, we were all getting on so well. They were buying a big house, and he genuinely asked, "Well, Dad might as well come and live, and he can have that room." And we had to sort of like say, "No, it's not. We're all friends, but that wouldn't be something that could do. That would be a little bit, unusual." He was like, "Yeah, but why? It'd be fine. 2 living rooms." And why not? I mean, I genuinely think we could live in a world where every relationship could end that way, if only for people being educated and understanding all the vast machinery that goes behind the things we always talk about, like congruence and respect and honesty and all that sort of stuff.
Does it come down to the idea that when we're with the person, or even friendships, if you think about it, when we communicate, this is my friend, this is my husband, mine. And it's like, that's my fridge. And if the fridge doesn't work the way it does, I throw it out and I get a new my fridge.
This conversation, so Alec, because I am divorced, right? So I'm able to see it that way. You run a master class in showing what being amicable with your ex looks like, right? I'm always in awe. I love to hear it, and the support that goes mutually, between and co-parenting and all of that. It's lovely to see. And as you're talking, I'm putting myself in, what would it be like if my ex, lived in my house? And I'm immediately like, no fucking way. No, thank you. Like, I knew, like, and it's not because of any bitterness or resentment, right? That I can't be amicable, because different dynamic. I hardly see him. I have no need to see him now. My kid's much older, but if and when I do, it's civil enough. Actually, Brett gets along with him better than I do, which is fun to watch. Right? It's kind of cool to see that, and awesome for Jared to have seen that. But to think about going that level, like, I'm not interested. And it's just because there's no, you don't exist in my life in that way, right? That I need to, but I can be civil with you. Like, we could share a meal probably and not have a problem. Like, I don't see that as being the issue. Brett and I have been together for a really long time. We've been together for almost 18 years, right? This year will be almost 8. That's a long ass time to be together. And I'm speaking for both of us. He can say his own part, but it's work. Like Gabby just said, it is not something that every day you wake up and it just magically happens. We're fortunate enough to like each other at the base level enough to be friends first, really, and hold each other in that, so that we enjoy each other's company. But it's hard work, and it's intentional work. And it is a lot of these scary ass conversations that need to be had about things that come up, about feelings changing, all sorts of whatever goes on, that we have to have with each other in a scary way, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where each other is. But I think that we have these conversations often enough that when they come up, it sort of ends with okay, this is where we are now. What are we doing now? How do you want to go forward? And we're each given an opportunity to like reflect on, where are you currently here? Or is this the end for you? No, I don't think so. Okay. It's still like, we care enough and still want to work towards what we both, I think, can see as being fortunate to have what we have. But that's an intentionality that has to come with how you show up in relationship with people. And I'm intentionally sure that I'm not sharing a house with my ex. Definitely never going to happen. So I'm fine with that.
I think every relationship, it has its hard points. Relationship, friendship, any of them, right? Has its hard points, has its shitty points, and it's how you move through those hard and those shitty points that tell you about that relationship. right? So that'll tell you how important or where it rates and how much effort you put back into it. So there's something in that, in all those bad spots, how you move through them and how the other person is there or not there. And then you get to make your choices. So there's something in that in itself. You were saying, Alex?
No, I was just going to say. So we started with role models, with difficulty of certain conversations. We've sort of gone back a little bit to what it looks like to have some kind of relationship with the ex. I was just going to invite any closing comments for this one.
Well, I want to hear Victoria's stance on this a little bit, but weigh in a little on whatever we talked about, whether that means your closing thought or not. But I would like to hear what you have to say. No pressure.
No pressure at all. I love listening to you guys' stories. Going to the point of courage, it sounds like, I mean, I know it is like for any relationship, it's a process, right? And we all say like how we approach the other person to let them know what is not working for us, either is on them or on ourselves. It's a process also to even learn how the other person communicates, even that, right? That's whole thing. And then the courage comes from not giving up. And as you said, I'm intentionally in this relationship, moving towards this, but the communication needs to be there constantly. So that's what I'm carrying. That's what my takeaways from this is like, never give up. That's the courage. I will try as many times as I have to in order to get my point and to navigate this together as a whole, where we want to go. And that's the love. Love is a bear with all these things, the intention, integrity, honesty. So yeah, it was nice to listen to all this.
So my final thought on this is that one conversation in and of itself does not mean the end of a relationship, right? Many conversations, in fact, don't equate to the end of a relationship. I think hard conversations are necessary to either get clarity on what needs to happen next and is the key to leveling up your relationship, possibly, because you may just break open something that has been needing to be said in order to get to the next step.
And following on from that, not only is one relationship not going to be the end, but one unhad relationship could signal the end, because it could be the start of a downward spiral.
I think the most important relationship that any of us could ever have is the relationship with ourselves and being able to ask ourselves the hard questions to be able to process. And I think Erica modeled that in how she asks those questions and when it's going to be a good time to give it and have it, and looking for herself to get what she needs to be met in that point, right? So that relationship, I think, is number one, right? And then it goes outside of that relationship, and that's what you carry to others and offer. And if it's not working, then they're not at that level, and that's okay. You could still be friends with that person, but you have to understand where they are, and maybe they can gain from you, because even that person has something to offer. I'll say myself, right? I've had that where even the person that I always had a hard time with and never really saw eye to eye, they can still offer you something, right? In how you interact with that or meet that person at what level. Like there's always something to learn from somebody, anybody, if you're open to seeing it. So, but it starts with you, and knowing yourself is the most important relationship.
Any more? Okay. Everybody take a breath That was an intense one. Okay. We all said what we needed to say. We're all in a better place now.
And we're all okay. Everybody's okay.
Yeah.
We
Mummy and
survived
Daddy,
that.
Mummy and
We're
Daddy
all
have had
good.
a tough conversation. Okay, it's not about you. We will see you back at the next one.
Ciao.